recording live from the Six Pack Campers Community Development Center and Mobile Podcast Studio. This is the Small Truck Campers Podcast, episode 20. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you guys could join me today. We got an awesome interview coming up, so why don't you grab your favorite campfire beverage and let's hit the road. All right, hope you guys are doing well out there. Welcome to episode 20. As always, so excited to be here. So excited we are on episode 20 right now. What a journey it's been, and each waking moment, I feel like this podcast, I try to get it better and better. So I got some new recording software right now. I got a new camera up, so it's HD, and we got an awesome guest to celebrate episode 20. As you guys know, since COVID, there's just been an explosion of campers out in our community, out in the space. There's tons of different campers available for sale, whether it's hard-sided pop-up, soft-sided pop-up, non-pop-up, truck bed style, whatever. There's tons of options out there, and that's what's so cool about this podcast is we can explore all those different types of manufacturers, those different companies, and there's a story in there with each one. So I'm excited to bring you today the story of a company I've been following for a while, and that's really intrigued me because they do bridge the gap between soft-sided pop-up and a hard-sided, non-pop-up. So without any further ado, I just want to welcome our guests, Erin and Tyler from Hiatus Campers. They're going to be on the show here talking about Hiatus Campers, their humble beginnings, and where they're off to next. Thanks so much for joining me, episode 20. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Gee! Erin and Tyler, welcome to the Small Truck Campers podcast. Thanks so much for making some time, and I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're excited to dive in and talk about stuff.
Yeah, perfect. For our listeners who maybe haven't heard of Hiatus Campers, that's the company you guys started and are currently running. And for our listeners, it's so unique because it's a hard-sided pop-up, not like a canvas-style pop-up. And we're going to dive into all that. But before we get started, I just want to hear a little bit more about kind of you guys' backgrounds, where you guys grew up. What kind of got you into the outdoors? Did you guys grow up camping, or kind of how did all that come into fruition?
Yeah, absolutely. We're both from the Pacific Northwest. So Erin's from the Seattle area. I'm from near the San Juan Islands. And we both kind of grew up around nature. My family especially kind of really pushed camping and backpacking and things like that. My dad had a Vanagon and a VW bus growing up. So that was kind of a big part of our childhood. And yeah, I think the outdoors have always been a part of our lives. And that's actually how we met, was kind of through the outdoors. We met at University of Washington through climbing. And so the outdoors have not only been a part of our childhoods, but definitely it's kind of pushed us to where we are today.
Yeah, I would say for myself,
Awesome.
I definitely grew up in the suburbs. So camping, like for my family, was pitching a tent in the backyard. But then once I got to college and was able to really find my community of folks and get into climbing and other adventure sports, that's when I felt like I really got to see what the outdoors had to offer. And it was a really exciting time. And like Tyler said, we met at the climbing gym, which is kind of a little cliche story, but it was a really good way to know that we had a lot in common in that sense. And we both really loved traveling. And that was a huge point for us in terms of like how we wanted to spend our time, the way we wanted to live. And eventually that led us into the Hiatus business. But yeah, I would say for me, like it was a bit more later in life that I really got to explore like the outdoors and get into different sports.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so University of Washington, is that near Spokane?
It's in Seattle.
Is that Eastern Washington? Oh, it's in Seattle?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thinking of something else. So like rock climbing, where would you guys try to go rock climbing around the Washington area? What was your kind of your favorite spot, or
Yeah.
what were some hot spots you guys would like to frequent?
Yeah. We met in the gym. So we definitely were gym climbers during the week.
Cool.
But I don't know, all over Washington, Vantage and all the way down to Oregon and Smith and up to Squamish and East Side, West Side. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Super cool.
Washington like has a lot to offer. Like it is definitely gray and rainy for a lot of the year, but there's just great access to the water, to the mountains, to the woods. I mean, in Bellingham here, we're only like an hour and a half from Mount Baker, which is like an amazing ski resort. So I think like being in Washington, we're really blessed with a lot of different things to do. And I mean, even on the east side, there's tons of awesome climbing. So yeah, we kind of went quite a bit around the state and
Yeah.
have climbed like a few volcanoes as well. So it's a really awesome place to live.
Yeah, I spent some time in Long Beach, Washington,
Oh,
so like
nice.
on the southwest tip of Washington State, and I still am into surfing and mountain biking and that sort of thing. But I've always thought Washington was like so beautiful, so pretty, so much to offer,
Yeah.
and you're never the only thing you're really waiting on, 'cause all the adventures there, you're just kind of waiting on the elements to line up and allow
Yeah.
you to go, whether that's
Right.
waiting out a storm to go surfing or waiting out a storm to go snowboarding
Right.
or in you guys' case, rock climbing. But it's definitely an adventure capital. It's just a matter of having the gear and the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, part of that is if you live here, you just learn to deal with that and
Yeah.
to climb through it. And it's okay to go surfing if the waves are good. So what if it's 28 and raining? You'll just power through. That's part of living here.
Yeah, exactly. That's how small truck campers kind of got started. Was actually a surf contest up in Westport,
Oh,
Oh, nice.
really?
pouring rain, and I saw a dude with a little camper and his Ranger, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, he's dry. He's got a little campfire inside going. He's got a warm meal up in the PNW. It breeds a lot of innovation just because of the elements, which is really cool."
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's a key part of why we created this company and why we have hard sides. It's just to keep ourselves dry through those elements. A little
Yeah,
oasis in the mist.
totally. It's starting to make sense now. So in college, what year did you guys graduate college? Were you the same year? Or?
Yeah, 2017.
Okay, so fairly recently, right on. And when you're doing these forays out to rock climbing adventures, what kind of rig did you guys use just to access that?
Yeah. Early on when I met Erin, I had a 96 Tacoma, just real beater, had 300,000 miles on it, but, had a canopy on the back. And I built a little drawer system in the back that kind of was super simple, had a bed and some drawers underneath with gear storage. And that led us a lot of places. But yeah, we had that rig for forever until it died. So
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the
that's awesome.
rig that when we graduated college, we traveled for about a year, like on and off in that specific truck. And obviously did a lot of camping in the PNW. And there was like 1 week in particular where it was just downpour, like day after day after day. And so we were literally laying in the back of that truck, couldn't even sit up. And we're just like, something has to change. Like, I love, a little bit of rain here and there, but just kind of being essentially like laying down the entire time and not really getting to move around was a big like sort of seed that planted in both of our heads in terms of what can we do to like maximize the space in this truck.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And Tyler, you got an engineering degree, is that correct, from University of Washington? And what kind of engineering
I
specifically?
actually went to school for industrial design. So pretty similar to
Okay.
engineering, a lot of the same kind of manufacturing backgrounds, but design is often focused on kind of the art and the process side of things.
Okay. Awesome. And Aaron, what about yourself?
I went to school for biology actually. So took a hard left from that, but I mean, the track I was on was mostly focused around like the environment and ecology. So again, kind of with my love of the outdoors, while I may not be doing research like every day, it still has an impact on like how we view manufacturing and wanting to not create too much waste. I mean, you will with manufacturing, that's just by the nature of it. But we definitely are sort of always thinking about ways that we can kind of eliminate waste or at least lessen our impact and what we can reuse or what we could salvage during the whole process.
Totally. Yeah. Some corporate social responsibility there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's so cool about the small truck campers community is the campers, you can't ship them in from China.
Mhm.
You could, but it would be a logistical nightmare.
Right.
So they're usually made in America or the country of origin, wherever someone's residing. And they also, the restorative properties of our community, like restoring old campers and kind of
Mhm.
breathing new life into it. And it's cool to hear you guys are kind of carrying on that those goals with social responsibility.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So, 2017, you guys are traveling around camping after college for a year. And I'm sure you guys are looking at the canopy after that rainstorm of just laying down for a few days straight. And what was kind of your initial action or your initial thought process? Were you guys maybe saying, hey, we should upgrade to like a camper that will fit the Tacoma? Or was it like, hey, I think actually I want to make my own? Or what was that kind of like
Yeah.
conversation like?
Honestly, that rainstorm was definitely kind of a turning point for us, right? I was like, this canopy is not going to do for us. We didn't really have plans for what we are going to do, and we were traveling full time, and we were up in Canada in October, and that's when the rainy season really starts to begin. And they were like, well, if we're going to keep traveling, even if we're traveling south, we need something that's going to be different than this. And so we kind of hit the drawing board, and our main goal was just to be able to sit up inside and make coffee in the mornings. And obviously, we went a little overboard with that, but we were kind of planning, oh, maybe we could just get a high top canopy, something where we could kind of crouch inside. But the wheels started turning, and many sketches later, we really wanted something that would pop up and fit on a small truck like we have. And at the time, that was before any of these kind of canopy style companies or canopy campers existed. So Go Fast didn't exist. Cab wasn't in America, things like that. And so we were like, well, we have a canopy. We want it to be about this size. We know the truck can handle that, but how can we make it so we can pop it up, stand inside? And the hard walls were something that were kind of important to us. We wanted to be warm and dry throughout the winter. And I'd seen those A-frame pop up pull behind trailers that had fold out walls. And I was like, well, if they can do it on a trailer, why can't we do it on a camper? So we kind of miniaturized something similar to that. We built it all out of aluminum. We just took a construction canopy, so like a Lear hardtop canopy, ripped off the aluminum skin, cut the framing in half, and started there as a base. And we made all the folding walls and components out of aluminum. And we thought it'd be like maybe a one month project over winter, and got some materials, and we thought it'd be pretty easy, and it ended up being, I don't know, 3 months or something like that.
Yeah. It's always way longer than you think it's going to.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, we had some amazing places. A friend of mine has a shop down in Oregon that graciously let us use the shop for on and off for a couple of months. And we bounced around, and we didn't really have a place to live, but we were building out of different places, and we got it done and built what ended up being our first prototype.
Wow. That's pretty ambitious. That's awesome.
Yeah, we had no idea that it was going to
And
be a company. It was just for us. We needed something to live out of,
yeah.
and we wanted something that popped up. And so we made something.
So did you have a background in like welding, or I know you had industrial design, but did you have like hands-on experience with joining materials, bonding materials? Is that kind of something you were familiar with?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The town I grew up from, Anacortes, is like a maritime town. It's like a fishing town. So the trades are pretty big there. And I think that they've done a really good job even growing through the years, where technology is super important and present, but they keep the trades alive. So we had welding classes even in high school, and woodworking. And so those things were just really amazing to have as a young, kid. And that I ended up going to Alaska to fish in the summers, and I worked on a couple
Oh,
of boats where some of those trades and having hands-on experience was super helpful outside of just the actual fishing. So commercial fishing is super hard work, and it's all about pulling in lines and reeling in fish and all that stuff, but you got to maintain the boat. And a lot of that stuff translated and was super helpful to learn about the maritime industry, including welding. And I didn't have a formal welding background, but definitely was very familiar with it. So I knew it was something that could be done, and had done a little bit of aluminum welding, but definitely didn't have all the necessary experience, but it was something that I felt comfortable enough to kind of dive into.
yeah, totally. Up there in Alaska, if you're on a boat crew, you're essentially, I see the boat captains, and I'm like, okay, so you're a boat captain. Okay, so you're kind of an electrician
Yeah.
too. All right, so you're kind of a diesel mechanic
Yeah.
too. All right, so you're kind of a welder
Yeah.
too. It's all these like extra activities just to keep the boat afloat when you're out there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's awesome. So, I want to ask, did the thought of like a canvas or like a traditional tent style pop up ever cross your mind, or was it like straight to, hey, we need to have a hard sided pop up with a prototype?
I mean, I would have to say we went straight to the hard
Yeah.
sides. When Tyler was first kind of brainstorming the different options for what he thought could be realistically built, after kind of exploring the whole A-frame trailer idea, we just were like, why don't we try this? Why don't we see if we can build something that could collapse and fit in the back of the truck? And like, we didn't really feel like canvas was like the best way to go just because of our climate. We knew we were mostly going to be camping and spending time in the PNW. So it kind of wasn't really a big thought in our minds to try canvas out first, because we just knew it was already not going to work for us if we went that route. So yeah, definitely hard sides was pretty early on. And the very first prototype we built is much different than what we offer now. We learned quite a bit in terms of how we wanted to construct things, and just the general geometry of what would work was a really challenging obstacle to just get over, because you obviously like you can have things fold in many different ways, but to have something that can fold and not just completely go to one side or not be compact enough, that was a huge challenge. But thankfully, because Tyler is such a handy guy, like we were able to really get a lot of different ideas out there and build and see like what would actually work.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I had a four-wheel camper, an older
Hmm.
one, and I had to replace the front lifting panel. And I thought, oh, piece of cake. I'll just cut out a new piece out of a jig and rivet it back up there. And you quickly learn that not only does the top come down, it has to come down straight down, but if those lifting panels if they're not perfectly congruent, then the roof will not lay flat. It'll lay to an angle.
Right.
It won't close properly. It won't last. So you guys are working with man, like 15 different variables. I feel like just to get the roof to sit flat on the
Yeah.
camper.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's probably a headache to figure out.
Yeah. Our very first prototype, I mean, again, it was just for us. It was something that we could deal with, and it was just something we
It was a
built
little
ourselves.
wonky,
But
but
yeah, so it folded kind of like an accordion. So it had these 10-foot hinges down the sides. So it had these big folding kind of accordion walls that would close down and open like this, two on each side, and then the end walls, the front and the back, would just swing up and lock the thing into a box. So inherently decent idea, but the problem with it was the roof and the camper weren't connected at the same time. And so the roof could tilt side to side as you opened it. And Aaron and I got pretty good at opening it, but it took two people to open all in synchronous. Oh, pull to your
Yeah.
side a little bit, push a little side to your. And so it was definitely kind of I don't know. It was
it had its own personality. Let's just
absolutely,
say
yeah. I
that.
mean, we learned how to use it, but it wasn't something that was marketable. And so
Yeah.
we definitely had to go back to the drawing board. It was like, if we're going to sell anything like this, it's got to be completely different. The concept is there, like small canopy, pop up with hard walls. And that was established, but everything else from there changed.
Hey guys, just want to take a quick second here and thank some of the supporters of the podcast. First up, Poseidon Bicycles has been a supporter of this community, and I like to thank them. These guys specialize in making some of the best gravel bikes, all under $1,000, which allow me to explore any campsite that we pull into or my local trails. And it's such a great thing to be able to pull up, hit the road on a nice bike, and get to see more of the spots that than you would normally see from just the campground. What makes these bikes even better is that they're super durable. They come shipped to your door, almost assembled, and they're price point friendly. These things are perfect. So I'd recommend checking out Poseidon Bicycles if you're looking to get into mountain biking or gravel biking. They make some great bikes. I got the Norton, the hardtail, and it's been able to handle a lot of the trails here in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and I've been super pumped on it. And Poseidon Bicycles is hooking up our community with a special discount code. Use code SmallTruckCampers to get $100 off your next bicycle from them, which is a pretty big discount because like I said, their bikes are under $1,000. So yeah, check them out if you're looking for a bike. Also, want to thank Guayaki Yerba Mate for their support of the community. They make great yerba mate tea beverages, which are essentially energy drinks without all the chemicals. And this stuff is like super delicious. It gets me hyped, and it's got the same energy as, I don't know, a cup of coffee or two. Long story short, if I'm loading up the camper all day and I need a little boost, Guayaki Yerba Mate is the stuff for me. Anyways, back to the show. So you guys graduate, you're traveling, you come up with this prototype eventually a year or so later, we'll say. And at this point, this is a tough spot to be as a college graduate. There's a lot of pressure out there to kind of go out and get a real job, quote unquote, and travel around camping in the prototype camper. I mean, what was kind of the motivation for maybe, or how did it look to maybe decide that, hey, maybe we can make another one and sell this one? And how did that kind of snowball versus the traditional route where you go with your backgrounds? I mean, very, very good backgrounds. So go get a real job, quote unquote.
Mhm.
How did that kind of decision making go?
Yeah, I think it wasn't something either of us necessarily knew this is what we want to do for sure. Like we had this like big grand plan to become like a giant manufacturer. Really, it kind of grew from just traveling and getting a lot of interest on the road and people wanting us to build for them. I mean, at the time, owning a business wasn't really on the top of our minds, but getting so much interest on the road and then coming back and not having a specific career that we were returning to. It's not like we were on a sabbatical or anything like that. Just returning back and saying, "Hey, we aren't tied down to a specific career. Should we see if this will take off? Should we give it a go and see if we can make it work?" And we both kind of agreed that it was something that we wanted to try out. And I mean, that being said, we also spent like a few years after that really trying to dial in what it was that we wanted to offer and something that could be really useful to folks. And we took a hard left from our original design and eventually got to a prototype that did work really well, which is what we still currently use. But a lot of this kind of snowballed along the way. So it wasn't like a big dream of ours to become like business owners, but it's been a lot of fun and we've really enjoyed being a small business, and especially in the relationships that we've had, their customers, friends, and everyone who supported us along the way too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean,
absolutely.
part of it too is like, to Aaron's credit, I think during our travels, so we took that first initial camper from Washington down to central Mexico and all over the US. And during all that, Aaron was pretty intent on posting on it on social media and making really good and like in-depth posts with great captions and kind of drawing a following. And I was always kind of like, well, what are we doing this for? What's the point of that? But really through that, reaching out to people and gathering interest in Aaron's side, meeting people on the road, that spread what we were doing in a way that was people were interested in it. And I went up to go fish in Alaska for one summer. And while I was gone, we had kind of discussed, oh, maybe this is something I'm going to do. And while I was gone, Erin actually found her first client. So she posted online about it and said, hey, this might be something that we're interested in doing. Does anybody want to work with us on the first prototype? Found a great couple in Seattle that was willing to do that with us. And that first prototype took 7-8 months to build. Way, like 10 times longer than it takes now. But finding that first person to kind of actually work with us and be able to trust us to build them something was absolutely Erin's credit here, and really kind of launched what we're doing today.
Yeah, it was
Awesome.
kind of just a perfect storm of having that Instagram account to reach people that we wouldn't have been able to connect with before. And so, yeah, again, we've been very blessed in the folks that we've gotten to cross paths with. And so it's been really fun to just explore this new route that we hadn't, I guess, originally planned on.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's a really cool way to kind of super organic, super guerrilla marketing style, and just kind of raising awareness. Hey, this is our thing, and maybe we'll sell you one, maybe we won't. But if you're interested, let me
Yeah.
know. And that's cool. So you're up in Alaska fishing, and Erin gets this order. And where are you guys planning on making this first prototype, or I guess the first real, we'll call it number one of Hiatus campers? Where was that all manufacturing going to take place?
Yeah. I think at the time when we started our business, we didn't have an idea. I mean, it was kind of just, oh, I guess we have an order now. Like we can kind of figure it out. And thankfully, through some of my previous work being in industrial design, I met a guy who has a shop out in Issaquah, which is just outside of Seattle. And it's a big farm basically. So it's his family farm, and he was moving back there and kind of making his own business out of one of the big barns, and graciously let us kind of develop a shop on his property. So we took one of those barns and had an awesome relationship with him where we were able to kind of trade some work. So we, built a floor in the barn and developed an electrical system and really turned it into a shop in kind of trade for rent for 3 months. And we would do other projects for him. So when we didn't have any kind of capital to make this happen, we were spending all of our money on developing a business. He was incredibly generous with allowing us to trade our physical labor, building things for him so that we could actually create a space to make these campers.
Incredible. That's awesome. So how did the first delivery go, and what prompted a second sale after that?
Yeah, the first delivery went pretty well. Again, like Tyler said, it took a little longer than we were anticipating. So we delivered it and actually had something to show to the rest of the folks that were following us to say, hey, like we've actually come to this new prototype that's works really well, has all the features we wanted, insulated, hard-sided, waterproof, windproof, has a great sound barrier. And here it is, the real thing, not just a model that Tyler might have drawn up on like SolidWorks or something. It's real and in person. And having that was huge because then we could actually show that it looks great on the truck, it functions great. We could even see like how it would affect your gas mileage and actually get to use it outside. And that being the essentially hiatus number one, we learned a ton of like how we wanted to actually manufacture it and what would make sense and the workflow of how that would all be possible. So it while it did take a long time, it really helped us work out the kinks in terms of what we wanted to do and where we saw the business going and just the general structure of how we wanted to set up our manufacturing processes. So it was a big learning curve, but it definitely was the information that we got from that and just like the general like idea of like, the types of materials we wanted to use. It was just huge for us to be able to see that all come to fruition. And then having a physical product that we could actually show people like was in existence was huge because then we actually had something to show to actually market. Whereas before we just were two dirt bags on the road with a camper that we built. But here was a hiatus camper that folks could see themselves in, especially in different climates like the desert, the rain, the mountains. So it was huge for us.
Nice. Yeah, that's perfect. And did that hype, that interest of the first one, did that kind of spark the next order and start kind of the snowball?
Yeah.
Mhm.
We had the first year we did 3 orders, one of which was our own camper. So we had hiatus number 1, we had our own camper, which was, prototype 2, which, we tried other things on. And then we had a third camper who was a friend of ours. So we kind of kept it pretty low profile for the first year. We were kind of marketing ourselves, but we didn't have a publicly available like option on our website to purchase yet. It was just kind of like, get in line if you want to get in line or put your info out there.
Hmm.
And at the end of that year, we felt comfortable actually releasing a product. We had tested it. driven it down back roads, put G-force sensors on it, really seen what it could actually do, and felt really comfortable launching it. So at the end of 2019, we opened kind of sales up on our website and started taking orders then.
Awesome. And with your background in industrial design, doing all those tests and doing all those kind of analysis of the material and of the quality control and of the structural integrity, were you able to kind of take what you learned in college and kind of put it into practice with, like you were saying, G-force sensors and stuff I've never even considered what manufacturers must have to use?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it wasn't just conceptual, which was what really, like Aaron said, really took us to the next level. It was pretty amazing how far we got in computer modeling and how close to the final design we got just playing around on a computer and doing physical tests, but not building an entire camper. We got really close to what the actual geometry is of how it opens and closes. But some of the things that we wouldn't know are what is it going to be like off-roading and how is the vibrations going to be for the like lower frame? Is it going to be able to support that weight? And are we going to need to add different kinds of supports? And so through that testing for that first year, we kind of decided on, oh, our metal tubing needs to be slightly thicker than what it was. So we stepped up the gauge of metal that we're using and added more rivets in different places. And we worked with an engineer to kind of finalize some of our testing. And so it was a lot of first kind of on the computer testing and just figuring out how it's going to work in the virtual world. But you got to build something and really test it to know what is it going to be like. And you can take data from that, bring it back into engineering softwares and really dive in deep and see where are the analysis, where is the camper weak, how can we improve that before we actually launch the product to the public.
Awesome. What a great way to kind of blend your background with what you did in school and stuff and your experiences, and then also with what you wanted to do. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely.
So so 2019, you're pretty much primed to get going. This is like right before COVID, which is obviously an explosion, right, of just camper sales and stuff. So were you guys still manufacturing in that barn factory, or did you make the decision to move, or kind of walk me through the barn factory up to when you guys decided to move where you currently are?
Yeah, so we were in our first shop for, I want to say 2, maybe 3 years.
Mhm.
And some of those years, of course, were pre hiatus, where we're doing all the testing and prototype building. But we were in there for a good few years. And eventually we just needed more space. I mean, these are huge things that you have to build, especially when the components are all spread out and not fully assembled yet. So all the frames, just even the material, the raw material is huge. So our first order of business was just to find a bigger shop. And I mean, at the time, cash definitely was pretty tight. And so staying in the greater Seattle area was not really in the cards for us. And so we expanded what we were looking at to north and eventually landed on Bellingham, mostly because of the outdoor industry here is huge. Everybody does like a little bit of everything. It's really fun to see. So just like the general atmosphere aligned well with what we wanted. There's also another big marine industry here as well. Like a lot of the fishing boats that go to Alaska come to the marina out here. And we had some friends that had moved up and could not say enough nice things about the area. So all the stars aligned and we decided to pursue finding a shop in Bellingham. And fortunately, we did find a space that was perfect for us. Huge ceilings, big windows, a really beautiful shop. It was brand new. And so they were really looking for tenants to come in and it seemed like we were a good fit for them. And we just needed a lot more space and that's what it had to offer. So we moved in there, got a big CNC laser, which was a huge, huge investment for us, but has paid off tremendously. I mean, it's allowed us to really automate a lot of the handwork where you're doing a lot of cutting, drilling holes, and just a lot of the metal fabrication we were able to now do on the laser. And so that just allowed us to build campers at a much faster rate than we were doing before, because prior to that, it was just Tyler and I doing everything by hand, but we were actually able to expand our capabilities, get a team going, and here we are today. It's been quite fun, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it's been fun, a lot of work,
Yeah.
a lot of stressful
Yeah.
nights, but overall, a great experience and a great road. And what's so unique about Hiatus is you guys, there's so much competition in the truck camper space, especially for smaller campers. But what's so unique about you guys is you have your niche of a hard-sided pop-up camper. The only competitor I really think maybe Alaskan, but they're so far, they're kind of more on the luxury, kind of like traditional camper side, whereas you guys are more on the minimalist kind of
Right.
side. So, and I'm sure your customer has, I don't know, been attracted to that it is a hard side. And that's what kind of caught my attention was you can be, dry. You can stay out of the wind. It's a little bit quieter. And especially in the Pacific Northwest with the canvas pop-ups, you got to worry about molding. The fact they won't really dry out as much, or they're susceptible to water intrusion, and just water just destroys things.
Oh, yeah.
So getting that out of there is just a great bonus.
Absolutely.
What would you say like your average customer is? If you could elaborate on that, that'd be cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the most surprising things in all of this is that we have folks from across the board. We have people that are young couples that really want to do the van life thing or have their remote office that they can just take out midweek and set up at the base of a climb. We have folks who have families, have like young kiddos that they want to take out and really get into camping from a young age. And we've also seen folks that are in their 70s that are like retired and just really want to focus on spending more time seeing more of the country and having a mobile rig that can take them to those more remote places. I think what I've heard from most customers who are interested in our specific camper are folks who, one, aren't necessarily looking to be in a van, want a truck specifically to go on those back roads, to go deeper and be in more secluded areas. And folks who do a lot of like skiing, who live in the PNW, or who tend to camp in places where you'll get a little bit of inclement weather or just unpredictable weather. We do have folks that are from hot climates. And I know like canvas-sided campers can be really good for that because you can have more maybe ventilation or something. But one piece of feedback we've gotten is that sometimes like with the wind, you also can feel like you're blown around a little bit and don't get the most restful night of sleep. And with our hard sides that are insulated, you're really protected from that wind. So I think it's folks from all walks of life who do a little bit of everything. Really, what we can offer is just a cozy home that you can pop up wherever you want and not have to worry about the weather or have to turn around and go back home because it's raining or windy or stormy. So it's really, I mean, in my opinion, for everybody. And it's just been really cool to see all the different versions of what people make them out to be and how they use them.
We also have customers that not only span like a wide kind of demographic and range of ages, but also from all over the country. I mean, we have people from all the way down the tip of Florida to the tip of Alaska. I mean, it's all the way across the country. And I think we really built this camper with PNW in mind. And I think a good portion of our customers are kind of above the latitude where it really rains a lot. Tons of customers from Vancouver, BC, Quebec, those kind of areas, Montana, Idaho. But we also have tons of customers throughout the warmer climates as well, which is always surprising to me. But people love them just for insulation, sound, all that kind of stuff.
Makes total sense given your environment you guys are operating in, and it would definitely attract that customer. Yeah, that's going to expose it to moisture, going to expose it to wet climates, and maybe some wind extremes, which are common with the activities we're talking about: rock climbing, snowboarding, getting out there. So,
Absolutely.
well, that's pretty cool. Is everyone custom made for a truck, or do you guys offer sizes? And do you guys do interior build outs? I know that was an option a while ago. I think it went away, and I'm not sure if it came back, or maybe I'm just
Yeah,
confused.
yeah, absolutely. So the canopy, so the lower unit that kind of sits on the truck and looks like a canopy, those are all custom made. So we have a bunch of different sizes of those, but there's not one that's the same. So every customer will choose a different kind of selection of things, put a different door on different sides or windows here or there, different color options or different interior lighting or all that kind of stuff. So the canopy is very customizable and we're always offering more options for that. So it's just based on what customers want and the feedback we receive and what are things that work with our manufacturing style. So that list is always growing. The pop tops, we have about 12 sizes and those canopies meet up with the pop tops. So some of the things in the top pop top can be kind of ordered in advance, but the majority of the camper is custom made. So we don't build campers that sit there and people purchase. It is always ordered, made to order, and we're direct to consumer.
Awesome. That's really cool. So if you got a single cab Toyota Tacoma, you guys can fit it. Or if you got an 8-foot bed Super Duty, I'm sure you guys can fit it. No.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have folks that have Honda Ridgelines, super small truck campers, 5-foot bed, really shallow bed, all the way up to F350s, dualies with 8-foot beds and huge walls. So there's a lot of ground in between.
Yeah. Awesome. That's good to hear. And are you guys available to ship these things? Or if say someone from the tip of Florida wanted to buy one, are you expecting them to drive cross country, or what's the logistics like that for that looking like?
Yeah. Most of our customers do travel to us. And at this time, we're not shipping them. So the customers that kind of need to work around that often will ship their truck one way. So they'll put it on trailer, ship it to us. And with a lot of these kind of LTL shipping services these days, it's actually pretty affordable to ship your truck across country, which is kind of crazy, but under
Yeah.
$2,000 even to ship it from the East Coast. So they'll get them
Wow.
shipped out and then fly out, and that will be the start of their trip. So Erin and another teammate work with people on when they actually want to have their build, and we can be relatively flexible about that. And it can start on their summer vacation, their spring break, or their the start of their retirement, and that will be kind of the start of a lot of people's big trips.
Wow, that's perfect. That'd be the way to do it. You order something across the country, just I'll pick it up and take my time driving back
Absolutely,
home.
yeah.
How many people you guys got in your factory right now working, helping pump these things out? And what's your lead time looking like right now?
Yeah, we have 10 employees and everybody here is super awesome. And it's always fun to, when customers come, to walk them through the shop and they get to meet everybody. And our lead times right now are about 8 to 10 months. So we are still in the process of ramping up production. So sometimes we're able to scoot some orders a little bit earlier if our timelines open up. But right now we are still a little on the longer side, but it's definitely gone much, much shorter than it was in the beginning. Like when we started, I think we had the 2 year lead time for so long, and mostly because we were limited on our capacity. But now with the new shop and all of our new CNCs, that's made it a lot better. And we're able to get folks their campers a lot sooner.
Awesome. Yeah. I think if you're making that decision to spend the money and get something you really want, whether it's 3 months or 4 or 5 months, whatever, it doesn't really matter. It only builds the anticipation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. And
uh,
a lot of our customers want something that's really custom and really, perfect for what they need. And the process to design that and work with a customer might take 6 months. By the time they're ready to finish that whole process, their camper will be done. So I think it
oh,
sounds like
okay.
a lot of times or a long time for a lot of customers, but as soon as you actually start diving in and really honing in exactly what you want and windows here and I like a stove packet or something like that, it can take a while. And by the time they're ready to go, we're often ready to go for the manufacturing.
Yeah, perfect. That's great. That's awesome to hear. What what future plans do you guys have for campers? You've been around about 5 or 6 years now, I'd say, and you have the iconic, yeah, camper model that you guys been making. Is there anything else cooking on the back burner that you might be introducing in the next few years, or R&D or
Yeah,
anything?
absolutely. So, I mean, I think the biggest project we have right now is just continuing to streamline production, just make things easier to build and more robust and just continue to further our current product. But part of that is just making sure our pop top is incredibly robust and easy to design or easy to manufacture. And once that hurdle is kind of met, we're going to be expanding what we can do with that pop top. So we have a patent on our design, and that patent is actually pretty
Nice.
broad reaching on what the pop top can be used for. So we're not quite sure what's in the pipeline, but there's definitely more to come.
We've gotten a lot of requests for a rooftop tent type product. So that would be something that we would love to dive into, especially as we are able to streamline those processes. Because if we were just assembling the pop top, that would be a lot quicker because there's not quite as many elements if you're just focusing on the pop top versus also the frame. And also, I want to add this thing to the lower portion of the camper. The pop tops for themselves, we could standardize pretty easily for, I don't know, like a small SUV and just kind of make sure that the specs would allow for someone to lay down, fully be comfortable, sit up. That's a big one for us. So that is definitely in the pipeline. It's still TBD on when that would be released, but that's a huge thing for us. And I know Tyler personally has a passion project for creating a flatbed trailer, or sorry, a flatbed model at some point in the future. It's definitely been something that's been on our radar for a while, just with the shop move and growing our team. That's taken a little bit more precedence in our lives, but it's definitely the move we want to make because I know we've been making these campers for a long time and there are obviously many other types of rigs that people travel in. So we want to tap into those markets and get other folks familiar with what we can offer.
Yeah, so that's cool. So once you perfect the technology in the process of making the pop tops, which, you guys are well on your way to, but once you kinda have it dialed just a little bit more, looking maybe to take that technology, which is patented, which is awesome,
Yeah.
and, apply it. There's so many different once you start thinking, there's so many different, applications for something like that, rooftop tent, flatbed camper, and then, that's just in the recreational space. I'm sure there's a whole man,
Yeah.
I don't know, business, corporate, military, there's so many applications for something like that keeps you dry, that keeps you insulated.
Absolutely.
Maybe AT&T cars could have
Yeah.
that instead of their, like, little, like, fiberglass campers where they do stuff or, FBI listening gig. I don't know, something.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
sure. So
Yeah, we've had
that's really
a
cool.
ton of requests for so many different types of things. I mean, and not just in the RV space, but yeah, all over the board. Yeah, there's more to come for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe the Amish will hit you up with a pop
Yeah.
top
Oh, yeah.
wagon
It
and
doesn't take any
airplanes with
electricity
a
to
pop
open, so
canopy.
it's perfect.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's perfect. No, that's cool. That's super cool. And most importantly, running a business is got to be a full-time plus gig. Are you guys still finding time to get out there and enjoy your camper and kind of come up with new ideas and stuff, or
Yeah.
you guys mostly tied to the desk right
Yeah.
now?
A little bit of both for sure. It's definitely gotten better as we made the move and kind of grown our team. I mean, it's been a ton of work to get there to actually be able to manage that and work with all of those
Mhm.
employees, but we're getting to a space now where our team is relatively self-sufficient. And so that means that we can get back to taking weekends, and we work a 4-day schedule at our shop. So we always have a
Cool.
relatively flexible Friday. So our whole team is off for 3 days on the weekend. So that's super crucial to being
Nice.
able to not only live our lives the way we want to live them, but make sure that our team members can do the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. We haven't been able to travel quite as much as we used to, which just kind of comes with being a business owner. I mean, one of the things that I feel like a lot of other folks, maybe this can resonate with them, is you try to escape the 9 to 5 desk job. And so you pursue your own business, but then you end up working 24/7 just because there's so many things that you have to do, so many different hats you have to wear. And I think prior to this, we didn't really think about like how many different facets of manufacturing that we would have to dive into. And there's just so many moving parts with that. So it's taken a little while to get a lot of that ironed out and get our team to a place where we need it to be sustainable. And we've finally kind of reached that place. And so we're really excited to start traveling more, going to more expos as well to connect with other folks and just get back to our roots and maybe get climbing a little bit more. Being a business owner has been quite a bit of work and definitely has changed our work life balance a little bit. So while it's been fun, it's definitely been a big grind for the last few years to get where we are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I listened to an analogy the other day. It's if there's a ball pit, and each little business is one of those little balls. You know, like at McDonald's, like the ball pit where you play in or whatever. And if your business is one of those little balls and you take it out, the other balls will just kind of like
Yeah.
fill in
Yeah.
the gap. So you got to be constantly like answer that email, or
Right.
call that person back, think about this, and keep your little space. Otherwise, it just goes like surrounds by others.
Yeah, it's something you
Yeah,
gotta keep on
that's
top
super
of no
cool.
matter what we do. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like Aaron said, like it's so much work, but it is starting to pay off for us. And yeah, the grind has been worth it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure the community, the people you met, I'm sure people are sending you photos around the country and probably around the world now, and that's super cool. Do you have any plans to attend anything this year in terms of trade shows or expos or events?
Yeah. We are definitely going to be at the Overland Expo in Bend, the PMW Saddle Expo. And we are in booth A110, I believe, which is just on the outskirt of that big circle. And so we are for sure going to that. And we've been focusing a lot more on local events since a big part of our customer base are folks who live in the PMW and farther north. And so we're hoping to get up to a few expos in Canada, but I would love to also go to a lot more community events and just like meet folks in person and shake their hand because I know that Bellingham is a bit farther away for some people to get to. And so we'd love to just be more on the ground and get to meet people in person.
That's what it's all about. So, well, that's wonderful to hear. And I just want to thank you guys again for taking the time to sit down and chat. Do you guys have anything you want to leave our listeners with before we wrap up this episode?
Well, we just want to thank everybody who supported us along the way, including our team and all of the people, especially in the beginning, that helped us get to where we are. We always love connecting with people in person. So if anybody would love to visit us up in Bellingham, definitely feel free to drop us a line. We can give shop tours and also show you our personal rigs so you can get an actual feel for what it would feel like in person. And a good place to turn to is always our website. You can find our email and phone number on there as well. So yeah. Don't be a stranger.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll link all that stuff in the show notes so our listeners can just tap on that and get easily to your website, Instagram. Check it out for more photos, more info, and get on that waiting list to hopefully drive away in one soon.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Tyler, Aaron, thanks so much for making the time again. It was a pleasure talking to you guys. It was awesome to learn about Hiatus. I'm so excited for this next year and then the future, what you guys are going to be up to. It'll be really cool to watch. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks
Thank
for having
you.
us.